Okay, can you guys see my screen?
I think we lost sound, Mahia.
Uh-oh. Darn it. I'm on mute. Okay, I'm off mute. And we're recording. Okay, great. Can't hear you. Okay. I think you can hear me now. Let's see. All right. So, can you guys see the presentation? Uh-oh. I'm wondering if I go on mute. No, I'm not off mute. Can you see my presentation? Okay. When I was on. All right. All right. Here we go. So this is our first class. A little bit about Native stories. Our mission is to share the indigenous voices of the land. Where a platform, an audio platform, provides access to Native stories through the people of the places and its history and its culture. We have a mobile app. We have a podcast, and most of this information is shared through the or the stories are shared through the podcast and through the place-based app. So if you download the app or don't know anything about it, go download it. There's a map, and you can travel around the world, and hopefully you'll hear stories of the places. Most of our stories, and we're only about 2 years old now, are in Hawaii because that's where we're from. So as we build the content, yeah, we can add more stories to the app. And again, we're a platform. We don't want to be the story. Our stories only. It's for everybody to provide their stories and have it come from them. So that's kind of our motivation actually for having this class as well. So the class specifically, when I was trying to figure out, or we were trying to figure out what to teach, there's stuff we will do and won't do. A lot of it is technical. Because it's only 8 hours of class, try to smush in as much as possible that I thought was the things that take the most time to do, but always ask questions, and hopefully we'll give you the most you can get out of this class at the least amount of time. So we will be reviewing all of the outline today, and then we'll go into a little bit of number 2, which is the interviews. So we're gonna move quickly through these things. So again, why are we teaching this class? To find storytellers. Hopefully one of you guys wants to be a storyteller or interviewer, or story getter, receiver, and sharer. And find the technical people to help us or others edit, produce, all that technical stuff. So teach you guys how to do that, and promote more storytelling in general from an indigenous perspective, from a Native perspective. So I'm going to introduce myself. Ikaika can introduce himself, and then Nanea's going to be about a half an hour late, and she'll introduce herself when she's telling her part of the interviewing process. So I am Nohea Lani Hirohara Frizzell. I live in Waimanalo. I'm at home right now. I'm the founder of Native Stories, and my shirt you can tell I'm a paddler. That's in general about me. I'm not very serious most of the time, so go ahead and again, just there's no such thing as stupid question. Ask your questions, and we can make this as productive as possible. Ikaika, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Do I sound okay?
Yes.
Great. Aloha kako, my name is Ikaika Bishop, born native to Ka'alaya on the east side of Oahu. Almost 40 now. I own 3 businesses along with my wife and have 2 beautiful children. By trade, I'm a farmer and a fisher, but I'm probably one of the biggest computer geeks you will ever meet. So, don't be misled by the guy always covered in dirt, because sometimes I do work clean. But I'm passionate about Native stories because when Nohea introduced me to kind of the mission to activate and perpetuate the voices of those connected to the land, I didn't know a lot about it, but through the process of being a part of the team, and then also a couple other projects that I was invited to work with, we've identified and established a framework to really get the perspectives of the counterculture, those that are not covered by the mainstream, and hopefully bring them to light. For all of history, it's pretty much been retold and retold and retold by the academia and the scholars, and without lack of a better description from Western foundations and also from Eastern foundations. But we live in America, so most of what we're inundated with is Western foundations. And so for me, I'm really honored to be a part of this project because I do believe the voices of the few, well, actually it's the voices of the many, but what's being heard is the few, really deserve a chance to share their truths. So this is an opportunity for the people who don't have access to this technology to share their truth, their perspective, and their feelings and their thoughts. And for them, because they've lived it and they love it, it's truthful to them. And I'm definitely a supporter of that. So, always thanking Nohea Lani for bringing me onto the team. And hopefully I can share something that inspires you and keeps you passionate about our goals and our missions. So thank you again so much for being here. And hopefully I can learn from you as well.
So, thank you, Kaika. We are going to go kind of introduce each other. Since this is a class, we are going to hopefully get to know each other, although it's not a in-person class. But I wanted to introduce you kind of to the rules and teaching styles. Again, I'm trying to just provide as much content as possible, kind of fire hose type of class. So if you have any comments, you can provide in the chat. It's hard for me to see it. But I think after some of the slides, when we're actually in the class stuff, instead of this introduction stuff, I'll stop and go ahead and, unmute yourself and ask your question. So maybe write it down if you forget it. And if you're going to be late, it's fine. Just tell me so we're not waiting. And actually, if you guys plan on continuing, because I think there's a large range of people that are interested to super committed from the beginning. So just let me know if you're going to be there or not. So we have an understanding of kind of maybe even making the class a little bit more tailored to those that are going to be there. But if not, we have the outline, so we'll go from there. I talk fast, probably won't explain terms. So again, please stop me if I don't make any sense. I might use acronyms. I will assign homework. So obviously what you put into it is what you're going to get out. So yeah, let me know if you're not going to do the homework, and we can figure something out. But I want people to learn. I want people that are focused on certain things to ask questions, and try and make this as productive as possible. So I want everybody to introduce themselves. I will call out people because I know sometimes people are a little shy. So where are you from? Why do you want to do podcasting, or what do you want to learn? So I'm going to go back to here and Keahi, can you go first? Because I see your face at the top. I'm gonna actually take notes.
Sure, no problem. Aloha, Keahi, mainland Hawaiian. I now live on the east side, Kailua. For the last 4 years, have been teaching video game development at Purple Maya, a nonprofit organization trying to bring tech to underserved communities. And I'm here because I've never done a podcast before, even though I'm computer literate. There's still a whole lot that I don't know, and I'd like to improve my storytelling ability. So I think I hit all the points.
Thank you, Keahi. Sorry, I'm trying to see everybody's. Oh, Kaiolani. Nice to see you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Aloha.
Aloha.
I hear echo.
Or turn off my mic. I'm mic'd. I'm muted.
Okay. Aloha, my name is Kaiulani. I'm from Makaha. I've worked with Nohealani on a couple projects for her podcast. And the reason I want to get into podcasting is because I listen to a bunch of different podcasts, especially entrepreneurial and business podcasts. And I feel like there isn't really a lot of Hawaiian voices in the podcast community, specifically talking about business and entrepreneurship. And I don't really know about the technical or logistics of podcasting, so that's what I want to learn.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to see everybody's faces at once. Oh, well. Okay. Kanoi Lehua. Are you? Yeah.
Aloha.
Mute. Okay.
I'm from Kailua. I'm born and raised here. I'm sped EA at Kala Hill High School, right up from where I live. And I like podcasts. I've been doing dipping my toes into different types of technology stuff. I did this video game thing through Purple Maya at Palau Nana, the Heaho, and I've just been trying to develop more ways to get Hawaiian native stories because I'm half Okinawan and I want to be able to create podcasts and other content for Okinawans because there's a lot of us young ones and there's just, a lot of the Okinawan culture is filled with like the older generation. They really carry it on their backs and they're really, they're making a foundation and I want to make sure that lives on, just like how my Hawaiian heritage is so pa'a in a sense I'm comparing the two and, there's just things that I want to level out and be able to be that medium for other indigenous kids that are Hawaiian and other things, to feel complete in a sense with their indigenous culture.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you for signing up. Keahi Johnson? Keahi Johnson? You're on mute. What does this do? Okay. Maybe you're busy. Keahi Selhorst?
No, that's me.
Oh, that's your last name?
That is my last name.
Okay. Where are we at? Kualoha. Ho'omanava.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to get off mute. Aloha, awina la kako. I'm Ku'ualoha Ho'omanava Nui. I was born in Kailua on Oahu and raised partly there and partly in Wailua homesteads on the east side of Kauai, and I still go back and forth. And I'm currently residing in Haiku in Kaneohe And it's good to see some of you who I know and to meet some new people who I don't know. I teach Hawaiian literature at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I'm the first and so far only faculty specifically designated to teach Native Hawaiian literature in the English department. And until this past year, the only Native Hawaiian faculty, not just in our department, but our entire College of Literature, Linguistics, and Languages. I'm really excited about learning podcasting as another media of our traditional storytelling. And, my research focus over the last 20 years or so has been primarily recovering 19th century mo'olelo from the newspapers and looking at connections to contemporary Hawaiian life and not just home in Hawaii now, but really across the world. So I really know nothing other than being an avid listener of podcasts. I'm really interested in learning the tech side and how to hopefully train my students to utilize this as a new media of recording stories, whether they're looking at one area aside from traditional lit and creative writing with new lit. A lot of our Hawaiian students in particular venture into autobiography, biographical writing and research, and life writing, and also studying the lives of our kupuna. So it's a really great contemporary way of capturing stories and, passing those along to future generations as well. So mahalo nui loa for this opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to go back to Kiahi Johnson.
Something happened with the browsing. My name is Kiahi Johnson. I am originally from Wailuku, Maui, and I'm here in Oahu. I am a UH Manoa student. I'm doing my BA in Hawaiian Studies and minoring in political science. And I'm basically here today to learn about podcasting. I've heard about it. I've listened to some of them, but I wanted to see like the gist of how you actually make and edit podcasts. And I'm also, right now I'm doing an undergrad research. I am a research assistant for Lonnie Teves, and we are basically researching mo'olelo from kupuna, and with lack of a better explanation, LGBTQ plus kupuna. So we wanted to just see, especially during this time when we don't really have that accessibility, and I don't want to risk myself going to kupuna and potentially getting them sick or whatnot. So right now we're just kind of brainstorming on how we wanted to go forward with this research project. But yeah, so that's why I'm here. Mahalo.
I just want to comment real fast is Nanea can give you pointers right away if you want to get on that. So just message us if you want to know. That's kind of maybe in the third class. And so it depends on your timing, but we do teach how to record online and stuff like that. Okay, next. Where are we? No, wrong. Where am I? Wait, did that one. Wait, who's H. Kainoa?
That would be me.
Okay.
Sorry, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I am really sorry for being so late for the meeting. I had to restart my laptop twice. I don't have my image on here because I think that might have been the reason why it was slowing things up and freezing my computer, so really sorry. So we're just introducing ourselves. Is that what this is?
Yeah, introduce yourself and why you want to learn this class. We're just taking notes on everybody.
Okay. My name is Kainoa Kaniakua. My family is from Kauai. I've lived on Oahu for probably 20-something years now. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the state. I also have a doctorate in clinical psychology. My interest in podcasting is I love listening to people's stories. It's just something my family did, something my grandparents did with us, my great-grandparents. So I love listening to stories. I think podcasting is a wonderful, accessible way for other people to hear things and to experience what's going on with someone. So I really like the whole idea. And so I'm just interested to find out like how it works and if I could do it with like, say, some friends and things.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Luana Peterson. Luana Peterson. Am I on mute?
Okay. Still working on my technology skills. Aloha, I'm Luana. I work in assessment and evaluation for Papahanakua Ola. My interests are in the power of voice and our story in moving Black, Native, and Brown communities closer towards self-determination. So that's why I'm here, and I just have a love for story overall. And I think Native Stories is awesome. They've offered their support on a project that I'm working on with Pula Malong called Weaving Our Stories. So this course is going to be great as we move forward in that work. So mahalo.
Okay. The names are moving around. N. Ortega.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nadine. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I saw it on the NEA's Instagram. I'm from Eva Beach, and I'm pretty active on social media, and I was trying to figure out a way to make, political commentary about what's happening right now, but without kind of putting my face out there because I'm really shy and, I'm scared to, put my face out there, but I wanted to still like have a voice. So I was thinking, like a podcast would be a great way to do that. I don't have a focus yet, but, probably feminism, Black lives, and like indigenous issues, etc.
Thank you. Oh. Did I wait? No, Nane's gonna come on later. Did I miss anybody? If I did, I'm sorry. But please speak up. Maybe I got everybody. Okay. All right.
Aloha.
Aloha. What's your name?
Aloha, this is Yumi from Oahu. Interested in podcasting because just like Luana, I think it's time to use my voice, but I'm not really sure how best to do it. So I had an interest in podcasting, and I firmly believe in Native voices really having their stories told. And yeah, really interested to grow with everyone. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Mahalo.
Sorry, what's your name?
Yumi?
Uni. Did I say that right? Uni. Okay. All right. So we're gonna share my screen, go back to the class, and we're gonna go over every single kind of that class outline. Where are we? Interviews. So we're gonna go over this in depth later, but we're gonna go over how to pick who you're gonna interview, the templates that Nanea uses to email and create the questions and make sure you have everything. And Ikaika is going to go over protocol for us specifically. that we use. Okay, recording equipment. This is all about, and so we're going to stop and pause after every one of these slides because we're going to get through, we're going to go in depth on each of these, but if there's just like clarification on what's needed or where you're at and you maybe have a high level question, please ask it. Okay, so recording equipment. It depends on how you are going to do your recording, your interview. So if you're going to be, you know, computer and microphone, you just need a USB microphone, or you can use earbuds, and that's completely fine. So that's only computer to computer. If you're doing, or you're just doing it yourself, you're just talking, that's really all you need. If you're going out into the field, you're doing person to person, on the right hand side, you see a Zoom, which is a recorder, and there's two of them here, the H6 and the H4. We have microphone, the XLR cable to this, SD card inside, AA batteries. So all that stuff is, and it gets expensive once you go to that route. And the whole purpose of having good recording equipment versus not good recording equipment is noise. So if you can decrease noise with cheaper equipment, then do that. But if you're out in the field and there's wind, and I'm going to go over that more, but the recording equipment gets more costly if your noise sensitivity goes up, depending on your the area that you're recording. Does anybody have questions? What will that be?
So the equipment you're showing, how much is that?
Well, okay. So this, on the left-hand side, that recorder, and just the recorder is, I think that one is about $350, and the one on the left-hand side is about $250. The difference is the left hand can record 4 microphones, plus the 2 on top. So that's 6 different people if you wanted to do it that way, versus the H4 has 2 XLR inputs at the bottom here. And plus the 2 on top. I never use the 2 on top just because it introduces noise. So we always do, when it's person to person, a microphone. And our microphones range from $100 to $250. And XLR cables are like $20-ish. So that's our equipment. But again, if you just want to do a USB microphone, that can be $100, or you can use these or your, you know, wired set of headphones, and it's completely fine as well. Any more questions? And this link right here, is a whole PDF on how to do everything on the equipment and the technical, so you can download that. But this is a way for us to, yeah, ask questions.
Will you be able to send out?
Go ahead.
Send out the slides or share them through Drive,
Yes.
so we can be able to like access the links and stuff.
Yes, I will do that.
Oh.
Yeah. Moving on. Anybody else?
Okay. Nohea, can you make your screen full screen?
Yeah.
Mahalo.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, editing and producing podcasts. I'm not gonna play this. This stuff I do when I
okay, so I uploaded the file. The first thing
I play everything
I
in double
did was
speed.
listen to pieces.
So I will share those links as well. It's on. I also sent it out through the email, but there's these videos on there as well. So editing and production, what is editing, and kind of high level of how we do it. So editing is taking your audio file, right? And it looks like this. See this waveform? It's an audio waveform. Uploading it to your editing software. And then editing is basically just cutting out pieces you don't like and merging it with other sounds, adding in your music, adding in your intro and outro, adding in your, other stuff. So that's just the editing. We'll teach you how to fade, and I'll go a little bit into like where you can get for free music and all that stuff. But that's basically what we'll teach just for the editing part. Now, production is taking the file from an edited version to making it where it sounds good for podcasts. So you guys probably, if you guys are podcasters, listen to podcasts. There are some that are very high quality to some that are not high quality at all. So you want to be at least in the good enough. I will listen to you because although your content is really, really good, the noise in the background or the softness, like you can turn up your volume really high and then you have to turn it down really low. So all that stuff, that's production. And then taking the wave file and then making it into MP3 file. So we'll teach that as well. And then removing noise. So a whole class will be dedicated. Oh, sorry. I'm going to stop here. Editing production. One more thing. We're going to teach you on two editing software. I will teach on Audacity, which is free on non-Mac, window type computers, and Kaiko will teach on, I think, Adobe Audition. I forget, it's an Adobe product. I'll teach on that. So
Yes, Adobe Audition.
Audition. Okay. Any questions? Shall I move on? Okay. A whole class is dedicated to noise. You can use Audacity for some noise, but I purchased RX7 to repair noise that is hard to repair for free. You get what you pay for. But in general, this video right here is about getting you to get audio content that is noiseless. So if you don't need to get rid of noise, then you save yourself hours of work. And if you want to do a podcast all by yourself or with a small team, sometimes you'll hear some podcasters say, "Oh, I have to go in the closet." Like that's legit. You should go in your closet and do your recordings because acoustics, noise, all that stuff is just not worth throwing away the audio, because I've thrown away audio because the noise is so bad you can't really make out what's happening or what's being said. Online, so I forgot your name, Keahi Johnson, Squadcast, just discovered this. I love it. Nania might have something else to say about Squadcast, but I love Squadcast. So I would suggest using that over Skype. And noise, one thing about noise is this wave file, MP3 versus wave. So compressed versus uncompressed, right? Compressed means they've taken out stuff and you can't put it back in. They've to make it smaller, they've had to take out stuff. So when you have an uncompressed of a raw file, kind of like a picture, right? A raw file, you can do stuff to it because it doesn't have all this digital modifications that have been done to it. So WAV is always like necessary if there's going to be noise. If you're going to have like perfect MP3, you don't have any noise, then go ahead and go MP3. So we're going to dedicate a whole class to noise because it's something that you don't want. Okay. Now, streaming your podcast. So once you have that MP3 file, right, you recorded, you have a WAV file, you take out the pieces, you add in the pieces, you take out the noise, you convert your WAV file into an MP3 file. Now you have to get it out into the podcast ether. And so that there's all these ones on the left are hosts. So they hold your file, right? If you think about like Apple Podcasts, there's the description, there's the picture of the the logo, there's the name of the person that's doing the interview, the description, there's links in there, and then there's the audio file. So all that information needs to be stored somewhere. We personally have used Castos originally, and we had lots of issues, and so we decided to go Blueberry. We personally, and I don't recommend this for anybody actually, is we hold our files on Amazon S3, and then we link it into Blueberry through our website, so that it's on the website, it's on our app, and it's on the podcast. So the reason we do that is because we could put on all those places. But if you guys just want straight podcasts, then you can use any of these on the left-hand side. And then Anchor is free, so that's good. So this is for the people that don't need to hold their own file, don't want to pay. They can, once it's on Anchor, it's not really yours anymore. You record into it, which is really helpful and easy to use, but that file is not really yours, it's theirs. So, up to you if you want to do it that way, but that's the only free host that I know of. And then once it's on here, so what we do is we went through Castros and Blueberry. You have an RSS feed. And this is actually all in kind of this YouTube right here. There's an RSS feed, and we have to apply to each of these different platforms. So we gotta go to Apple Podcasts and just Google how to get your podcast on Apple Podcasts. And that's literally how I went to each one of these, put it on, and now it links to the RSS feed. So anything you put onto your RSS feed, which comes through the host, will be pushed out whenever you publish it into these podcast platforms. That's probably a lot. Is there any questions on that?
Do you only apply once and then the
Yes.
feed sends the podcast for like weekly or whatever?
Yeah. You apply once, so it knows when there's been another published RSS, I guess, file, it would be. It's an RSS feed, so the RSS feed is like a bunch of, data, but it knows when you've published a new one. So it'll show up, obviously on whatever way, it'll show up as a brand new episode. But yes, you only need to apply once. Okay, moving on. You can ask me to go back too if I'm going too fast.
So you said you host your files on 3 and then on your website and then upload it to Blueberry, but you said not to do it that way. Is that correct?
Yeah, the reason I do it that way is because we have our app, and so all the files can go to both.
Go ahead.
And I'm not paying Blueberry.
But what way would you recommend us to actually go?
I'd have to search the kind of the cheapest version, but I know Blueberry has really good. They have a lot of, and Libsyn are the ones that I know of that are good, and that's where I would go. If you, some of them like SoundCloud go automatic to specific platforms, but you want to, I assume you want to be on every platform. But if you don't care, then your cost is probably going to go lower. So it really depends on what level of platforms you want to be on, how much money you want to spend, all that stuff. I actually originally tried my website only. So the reason why they have these hosts is because it has to store your files. And the audio files can be really large, especially obviously if you have a lot more, then you're going to have way more files and way more bandwidth is used. So that was my first problem, was people couldn't download the podcast because I just used the free version and uploaded my content to the website, but my website host was too slow. So then we were like, oh, we need to put the file somewhere else. And that's how we got into S3. Also, because we're a nonprofit, you can get free, it's like $2,000 free of bandwidth or something like that. S3 is kind of weird in how they charge, but we literally, with the podcast and with the mobile app, we probably spend $200 a year, but we get $2,000 free. So it's kind of like if we have a lot of room to expand from there. So I would Google Blueberry and all the versus SoundCloud versus Podbean, and it'll show you kind of the capabilities and then the cost. Usually you'll find that.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how some people actually have like a podcast where they film it, like Tiger Belly or like Joe Rogan, like they have videos, right? And then I'm assuming they just rip the audio file and then upload that into like one of these platforms.
Yeah.
Does that make a difference to where I keep my file? Like if I was to go that route, would I still need a host, or not a host, but like a platform like Blueberry or what to hold the file, the audio file?
Yes.
Okay.
So so the video, right, is huge file. Our website went down because of just and this is MP3 files, so they're like 1/100th of the size of a WAV file. But once you go into video, obviously your file size is large, so you can bring your whole website can go down if you put those files there. So I don't suggest doing that unless you don't, yeah.
Can I use YouTube to hold the file?
You can use YouTube to hold the file, but you cannot stream the RSS feed from that YouTube because it's not an MP3 file. it's not it's not a video file. It's a link to the file. Okay, I'm moving on. Okay, we like to tell people that we have a new post. So we use Canva. I like Canva. It's a way to make see these pictures I have on the right side. And this is actually Canva right there. So you can make templates, you can make Instagram, you can make videos, you can make all kinds of fancy stuff. It's really cheap. It's actually free. So I suggest if you're gonna make posts to do it with that because it's easy and it's free and you can have a team and all that stuff and use the same template over and over again. I use Planoly. Nanya doesn't like Planoly to schedule posts. So I don't know, and because we use Instagram, that's like another thing. You can't schedule Instagram posts on Instagram, but on Facebook you can. So it depends. We use MailChimp and we use YouTube. So actually Camtasia, I'm actually using Camtasia right now too, but that's paid to video this whole my screen right now. So if that's what you want to do, I like it. I haven't used anything else, so maybe there's something better out there. If you guys have suggestions, we can do that in that classroom. Any questions on this one? I think we're actually going into the interview section. So that's basically the overview of all the classes. I'm getting into detail into each one of these. Okay. So I'm gonna hand it over to Kaika.
Hey,
I'm going mute.
I'm honored to be hosting this with you folks. I'm very happy to recognize Kanoe Cruz. How are you? And also Ku'u Aloha, Ho'omanawa Nui. How are you? As far as also wanted to recognize Luana at Papahana Kua'ola. My cousin is Pula Malong. I am down at Kako'o'iwi right now. So thank you so much for joining this. For me, I think one of the more important roles that I serve with the workshops that I've been teaching with the WCC journalism course this past semester was instilling a sense of protocol for everything that we do. Early on, when we started developing the Native Stories platform, we wanted to make sure that it was as intrinsically involved with our Indigenous foundations as we could possibly get. So we developed a set of very simple protocols that align with our Hawaiian culture. But what I like to teach the students is that even though we practice Hawaiian culture and we are Kanaka, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best protocol for every culture. So I try to stress to the students that it's really their kuleana and important for them to determine or adapt, evolve, or create protocols that are appropriate for the culture whose story you are telling. So, for example, if I'm approaching my kupuna and I want to ask them a question about their history or their knowledge, their ike, their mana'o, I'm going to approach them with a protocol that is pertinent to her, all kupuna's culture. So for me, I've broken it down really simply into three things. The first one is always permission. The second one is respect, and the third one is gratitude. So it's simple because I don't want people to get too involved. If you want to learn about proper protocols, there's lots of other spaces for that. But for us, we just want to make sure that we're not being disrespectful to, especially to the person that we're interviewing. But from our perspective, you have to realize that there's a lot of energies that are probably supporting the story beyond the storyteller. And we're not just trying to respect the storyteller. We're trying to respect everyone who has energy behind that story. Anything and everyone that's included or mentioned in the story. And you also have to pay respect to the people who are listening to the story in a sense. Be mindful that these people have shown enough interest to listen to our story that we should be grateful for that, because this is one of the reasons for having this platform, is to be able to share the perspectives of those who don't normally have access to this type of technology. And so just by allowing access to the technology, you're inviting people to listen. And if people are receptive and they actually choose to listen, you should be respectful for them, grateful for them, and just be thankful that they even shared the time to listen to these stories. So these are all types of things that I think is very important with content creation, content acquisition, content manipulation, and then content publishing and production. So when we're doing all of these things, we want to be able to do them with protocol, aligned with our protocols. So first and foremost, whenever I do an interview, it's always asking for permission. So I'll ask everyone who's involved. In the past, I've had students, so I tell the students, do I have your permission to share today what experience I've had with podcasting? And they all, I look them in the eye and I tell them, I need your permission to continue. And at first, you can see, a little bit awkwardness, like, what does that mean? But by the second or third class, they realize, like, oh, this is something very important. And for me, the spark of light that makes me happy is when I'm coaching them and I'm watching them actually interview someone else. The first thing they say is, do I have your permission to record? Say, okay, you get an A, because that's the ground rule right there, is asking permission for me and for us. And so then once permission is granted, then you can move forward with content acquisition. And so those would be the questions that you're going to ask. You should always be prepared. Prepared is very important. So on the fly, you want to show up, you want to ask a couple questions, that there's a space for that. But for me, if you haven't prepared, you're not really showing respect to the interviewee. So preparing to make sure that everything is as smooth, comfortable, and uninterrupted for the interviewee is extremely important. You want them to feel comfortable in that space. You want them to feel safe and secure. You also want them to feel respected and know that you are grateful or thankful for them to even share. And the bottom line for me, the reason why this is very important is we can ask people questions all day long. And how you ask those questions will determine what responses you get. And for us, I think it's very important that if we're trying to tell a story from the perspective of a certain culture or from a certain background, if you approach them in a very alienated way or a very foreign way, they may regard that as a form of disrespect, or they may regard that as a form of offensiveness or even intrusiveness. And so for our culture, if you're able to give that humility and that humbleness and share in that passion and that pride with your interviewee, you may actually gain an opportunity to access information that wouldn't normally be shared with you. A good example is like mainstream journalist who's trying to interview the mob boss who just got let off of his crime out of a courtyard. We've all kind of seen this image in the movies where all the journalists are basically shoving their mics in the guy's face and they're saying, tell us about this and tell us about that and tell us about this and tell us about that. And how much of that out of that person's mouth can you guarantee is true? And so the word true to me is something that I think is lost a lot nowadays, because what a lot of people revere as truth is something that's been published, studied, researched, vetted, supported, justified, republished, and because it's gone through all of that, it's true. But for me, I have a hard time boxing it in like that. For me, I've learned that everyone has their own truth. And so if they tell you that's how they learned how to do it and that's how they've been doing it, or that's how their tutu did it and that's how she's always done it, even if that's not written in a book, even though it hasn't had evidence behind it, doesn't have any science behind it, doesn't have any facts behind it, it's still true. It's true to the person who lives it, eats it, breathes it, dreams about it every single day. So for me, I will never dispute somebody who carries that type of truth. And that's the truth that I like to activate. And that's the type of truth that I perpetuate. So thankfully, most of the people that I've been dealing with have come from Hawaiian cultural backgrounds. So it's easy for me to resonate with interviewing other Kanaka or people that carry, mo'olelo or story or history of Kanaka. I want to mention that because a lot of other people we've worked with do not come from Kanaka culture. So for the students, one thing that I want to impress upon them is that you should do your research on your interviewee and look into their culture and actually formulate a protocol that's most appropriate with their culture. And it's really more of a sign of respect. And hopefully they recognize that. When you approach them with that respect, they may give you the opportunity to gain information that they wouldn't normally share with other people. So I've said that twice already, because for me, that's where you can really get something that's special. And not only that, it's also something that isn't mainstream. And that's kind of where I want to migrate away from. Anybody can open up Wikipedia and Google the story of High Hawaii, where the Hawaiian flag came from. But if you actually meet somebody who, wears the flag proudly, why do they wear that flag so proudly? Why do they fly that flag so proudly? It's a completely different story from something that's posted on Wikipedia, and it can differ on where the event is, why the event is happening, who is actually at that event, why that person chose to wear that flag, what is the reasoning behind that choice. All those questions are not answered on Wikipedia. And I could easily just, go to one of the Ku'e marches and walk up to somebody and ask them, hey, why do you wear that flag? Why do you wear that flag? Or why do you wear that flag? And you know what? I might get the same answer every single time. But if I change the way that I approach these people, I may get completely different answers every single time. And that's what keeps me interested in the search for truth, is really gaining the perspectives from the many and not boxing myself in, believing that I know what the truth is and I want to hear it come out of your mouth. So if that's the approach that people take, I don't think they'll ever really gain the perspectives of the many, the voices of the few, the people who don't have this type of platform. So as far as protocols goes, just to reiterate in conclusion, permission, gratitude, and respect are three of the most important things. So make sure you always ask permission. Make sure you show those people utmost respect in every capacity from the beginning to the end. So That's the total production process. It's not just be respectful the moment the interviewee walks in the door. You have to be respectful for the establishment that you're working in. You have to be respectful of even the technologists who are building the technology so that your content is accessible. They are all a part of the team, whether you see them or not, whether you talk to them or not. So with everything that you do, it really should be carrying this type of respect for everyone that's involved. And then the last one, the gratitude part, is very important because everyone has different ways of accepting gratitude. It's easy to give gratitude. It's really easy for me to say, hey, mahalo, hey, thanks, yeah. It's very easy for us to do. The hard part is doing it in a way that's genuine enough so that when the person receives the mahalo, they know 100% without doubt that you're genuine about thanking them. So to me, that's something that is very easy to be lost. You can make very shallow comments, very shallow examples of being grateful. And, that's why I put those three things on the same pedestal. They're very important. And for me, it's mostly about safety in an energetic sense, not so much as a liability sense. It's so that at the end of the day, I feel like everything was pono. Like everything that happened for a reason. It happened because it meant to happen, and it went very smoothly. No hiccups, no mistakes, no problems. If at the end of your interview, from the time you interview to the time you publish to the time that it's produced and then published, that very last moment when you hit the click that says, yes, as of right now, everybody can listen to my story. If you feel good at that moment, then you're safe. Because the truths that you're telling that has been acquired and has been manipulated, has produced in a pono way, and you feel good about it. And so when you go to sleep at night, you're going to have good dreams.
Thanks, Ikaiko. Well said.
Yeah.
Very important. And yeah, it is something that we try to do. Hopefully you guys do that. Can't make you do it, but it's lessons that have been learned through messing up and whatnot. So thanks, Ikaika. Can I move on to Nanea?
This is Kaino. I have a quick question. So when he was talking about pono, I thought back to something that had happened years ago. There was a prominent Hawaiian woman who was being interviewed. She said yes to being interviewed, and she talked about her story. She talked about her family, and her interviews went over years of contact with her. And then she had passed away. The group that was organizing this spent years putting it together because they wanted to make sure they did it in a way that was respectful of her and her stories. Her family got involved, the relatives, and said, you cannot produce any of this. This is our family. This is our stories. You can't say anything. You can't produce this. You can't put it out. So the question I wanted to ask was, the woman who they interviewed, she said yes to this. She's the one who actually controlled when they could come over, when they would interview, when, in fact, she would end up flying to a different island and say, hey, I'm here, come here, and I'll talk to you. And so during this process of permission, is there ever and I don't want to make it sound like this has to be a legal thing, but in cases like where you've done everything possible that's pono for you and the person you're interviewing, then you have a circumstance where someone else says, oh, you cannot. Do you have them sign a permission or something?
We have a media release. And that's legally we could publish it. Our tact is to if hopefully we have their grandchildren around, or we have their, whoever's, taking care of them or whatever around, and we're getting okays and head nods from everybody. But if they don't want it up, we will remove it. That's just our way of doing it. We will remove anything that people are not comfortable with, period. Unless it's, they have no say, but unless it's people that just, but also some of our rules is we try not to talk bad about anybody. We try not to use bad language. We try not to make it about other people, or victimizing any other person. So, I mean, that, like, you have to set up your own rules and be upfront and be transparent about those things. And hopefully everything, comes out fine. But yeah, being that it is, a kupuna, and the family does have a say after they're gone, it's up to you to respect that decision. So yeah, hopefully that helped. Probably not.
I'll just add real quick that during that whole content acquisition phase, when they were, developing the content over years, I think in the end, the result was, maybe this is just an assumption, but in the end, the family probably wasn't okay with it because perhaps they were never asked permission. I don't know, but if they had been approached from the beginning with the interviewee, and the only reason why I would say that is because the interviewee could possibly be mentioning family members. So, get the interviewee's permission, but at the same time, you say, oh, would your family members be okay with you mentioning them in the story? And then is it okay if I ask them permission to publish the content because their names do appear in the story, or stories about their family, or they are connected to this story? Those are the types of things that you have to, for me, you gotta take that into consideration too. Because we do have interviewees talking about their family members, and I do have to ask them, like, do you think are they gonna be okay with you mentioning that? And they might say, yeah, no problem. And then I say, oh, should I call them and contact them and ask them that? And a lot of times they're like, nah, it's all good. And at the moment, if it feels okay, then I think you can move forward. But if you think for some reason it doesn't feel okay, that's your judgment call. Yeah.
We have like 40 stories that we haven't published because we haven't gotten the okay from the right people that felt good. So it happens. In the more like, and it depends on what the story is and all that stuff, but that's part of the, it's part of you setting up your own rules to figure out what's okay and what's not. If you want, I guess, follow our rules, that you can, but I think you take it upon yourself, and the people that you're connected to, that it will affect. So take it for that, whatever that is. Shall we move on? Nanea, do you want to introduce yourself? I forgot you didn't introduce yourself.
Yeah. Aloha mai kako o wau ona nea loko ina no Papakule Oahu mai no hoa ma hikapu a me Wichita moku o honu. Hello everyone, my name is Nanea Lo. I'm from Papakule Oahu. I'm currently on Kikapu and Wichita land on Moku, Honu Island, and I just want to say mahalo for everyone being here. Sorry I'm kind of late. And that's known as Dallas, Texas. But right now I'm kind of like on a road trip back to Dallas, so that's why I was late. Yeah, I wanted to say mahalo for everyone being here. I see some people that I know, that's awesome. Welcome to the world of podcasting. and especially at this time where it's like so socially heavy with the pandemic going on, and then how we're doing in supporting Black Lives Matter. So I joined Native Stories kind of randomly. I never really listened to podcasts before, but I was starting to get interested in it because of a few of my friends who were into it, but I just never thought I had time or whatever. I got asked by Nohea Lani to become a host, and so that's maybe like almost a year ago. It was a podcast with Auntie Terry Lee and for Nawahine Koa. Yeah, and I love doing Native stories because I believe in truth telling and sharing Indigenous and Native knowledges and mo'olelo through us instead of having other people share that for us. One thing I like to say is so I'm also the social media manager, and I'm an activist. But everybody has their own hosting style. So these are just kind of what I do. It doesn't mean necessarily that you need to follow these. And most of the time, I like to map it out in these 3 sectors, but it doesn't always go as planned. And I like to say that relationships are everything. Most of the stories that I've gotten after I did Auntie Terry, I went to Mauna Kea and I did the Mauna Kea series. And I feel like if you're real with the people that you want to interview, and you create some kind of relationship and open level of communication, they're always more willing to talk to you and share their story, especially if it's something that they're passionate about. So my 3 sections are ask, prepare, confirm, and follow up. For the ask, this is probably the most hardest thing that you'll do because it doesn't really come naturally to you, and sometimes people don't even know what a podcast is. Like almost 75% of my episodes are raw episodes from people who have never done a podcast in their life. So making them feel comfortable is very important, especially if they feel like it's somebody that you can talk to. I'm still new at this, so if you listen to the episodes, it may seem kind of like shaky, but I'm learning. Too. So the ask, you always want to try and ask somebody in person, of course, but I love technology that you can ask them in multiple different ways or, platforms. So email, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Also, to be more professional, email is always preferred. And I recommend that after you identified the person that you want to do the interview with and ask, in the initial email, make sure you CC someone else just so that it's kind of like insurance for you, or just maybe you forget and then, your coworker or somebody that you are doing the podcast with can remind you that, hey, maybe you need to follow up with this person or whatever. Prepare. So you kind of touched upon it too, which is research. The person that you're going to interview, see if their values and, history and everything aligns with what your podcast represents and the story that you want to capture. The next thing that I like to do is make a shared Google Doc with, my coworkers and in a shared Google Drive. This is important for me, I think, because Google is easily accessible. A lot of people have Gmail accounts already, so it's easier to share with them. And then after you make the Google Doc, create the interview questions. I just do kind of like a template style, and when I switch up the different people or interviews, I just kind of tailor it from the research that I get from them. And then last, this is the most important, is the asks. And the asks are basically what you want to ask the person that you're interviewing. I put this on the Google Doc, but also it kind of leeways into the confirm and follow up. So after you confirm with the person that you're going to do the interview, you do the date, the time. And this kind of varies. This kind of goes back and forth from sending the Google Doc or whatever. But I like to, in the email, like confirming, like I like to ask them, okay, so, mahalo for, doing Native Stories. I like to tell them the mission and our vision. I like to tell them a little bit about me, just because sometimes I meet somebody briefly in a conversation or just randomly out, like even at the store or something. So just to brush them up so they feel a little bit comfortable with me. And then I ask them, date and time of the interview. I asked them for their social media handles. That's just for our social media postings and to connect our audience with them. I like to, since our application is place-based and we have a map that connects our stories to that, we ask for an address. 3 pictures. We like to ask for 3 pictures of whatever they're choosing, but pertaining to the story that we're highlighting in the episode, so that we can have a variety of things for visuals, depending. And also, that's basically it. But that's why I like to do the shared Google Doc, because in the shared Google Doc, I also put in that confirmation email if they want to go into the shared Google Doc, change the questions, edit it to whatever they want. So it gives them more of control over the narrative versus me being the interviewer and doing everything for them. Like, at least it gives them time to review it and change it to their liking. And then follow up. Most of the time, actually, I've been very blessed. A lot of my interviewers are super stoked to interview with Native Stories, so I don't really have to follow up much. But if you get somebody that you have to keep on following up, just do it. Just follow up. Nobody cares. Also, if for some reason the interviewer like drops too many times, just keep them in the backdrop. Like, I have a separate like notes that I have of people that, like, some people who haven't been able to hold down a steady schedule with us, but I feel like their story is important, and maybe it wasn't that, that time wasn't the good time, but it's fine. So moving on, this is my ask question template. Like I said, and then I also put the date, time. I like to put the little series just to remind me. I put, so this is my little thing, but you guys don't need to do it. That's about it. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have a comment. So we do the intro, like some people like to do a whole intro. Like, I think Ikaika does this. He does the recording and then he goes back and kind of like revisits like an intro to the whole podcast at the beginning. But Nania does it all at the beginning, introducing the person, and then the Q&A, and then the that kind of the outro is written here as well. So don't forget, and we can add in extra stuff like any call to actions and stuff like that that we want to highlight during that time. So sorry, that was my only comment. Any questions?
I forgot to say, I do, if I don't know the person personally, and I want to know a little bit more, because sometimes, especially with Native and Indigenous people, we're private. I'm not private, but like some people are private. So if I can't find them on the internet and stuff like that, then I'll ask for their CV or their resume. And I also ask people to write a little bio about themselves, and I just regurgitate it on the podcast because I don't know. I just feel more comfortable with them writing it because it's like what they want to share about themselves, you know? Yeah.
Go through the duration it takes for you to create the docs, do the follow up, do the interview, set up the interview, all that stuff. Like, how long does it take for each of those steps?
Okay, honestly, I could probably do a whole thing from start to finish in maybe like 2 hours if I had a participant who was willing to just do an interview. But creating the document, since I already have a template, it's like maybe like the most like 20 minutes because like I said, I share the document with the people who come on so they can add, delete, whatever they want for the questions. And also, I like the Google Doc too because sometimes people like to write notes in it, and so I can go in and kind of read and kind of expect. But also, when interviewing too, sometimes people will answer the questions that are later on in the beginning. You just gotta roll with it. Um,
Yeah, what about your
yeah.
first ever interview? How long did it take to figure out this process versus
Okay.
now?
Honestly, the Mauna Kea series was super on the ground work. Actually, almost all my stories have been on the ground because I've been doing stories while I've been traveling from all over. But that was hard because we interviewed inside the car. And so I literally scheduled people within a week. And it was kind of crazy because at the time, like, there was heavy Mauna Kea action going on. And I was tried to pull the leaders of, like, the different sectors to the car with me. I feel like if you're diligent, you can complete things, like, super quickly. But the thing is, with podcasting, it's I guess like individual work. So you're your own boss kind of thing. So you have to stick to your regimen and your schedule and make sure you're holding yourself accountable.
I really loved it when you gave me a ton of content and I was able to edit it. So Nania does interviews and I edit and produce them and publish them. And when you can do a bunch at one time versus one a week, it takes less time. So I suggest if you want to save time, you can do kind of schedule everybody all at once and interview them all at once and all that stuff, which is hard for us because it's not like we have one specific topic the entire time. But yeah, that's another maybe. How much of the interviews do you typically use? Also, how do you determine what content to keep and what to leave out? Oh, how much of the interview?
We usually use the whole thing, which I'm actually surprised about because sometimes personally, my attention span is 30 to 45 minutes. I mean, just from me listening to podcasts myself, anything after 45 minutes, I zone out or like I'm doing other stuff and I'm like, shit, I cannot listen to this right now. But
and I can listen for hour and a half and I listen in double speed, so I don't mind. But at the same time, what do we cut out here? This is another like tip. If you have the right questions and you have done enough of the upfront work to research and know exactly what the question is going to be and what the answer is going to be, and you can kind of some people like to talk a lot, and some people just be like, 2 sentence type of answers. You have to put in the work to be a good interviewer. And the reason we don't cut out much is because I think we do enough research to get the answers we want like quickly and then move on to the next question. Have I cut out stuff before? Yes. In the very beginning, there was cutting out stuff. But I think over time, you get better at it and you just have to practice. So I suggest do not cut anything, just do your research at the very beginning and do all your homework so you don't have to cut out anything. Because especially if you have an hour episode and you have to listen to it and then be like, oh no, I'm gonna cut that out. It takes a lot of time. So maybe I go into that. How much time it takes to do editing is completely based on the content that is being discussed and what you want to keep and not keep. At the very first time I did this, the editing, all the I took out, it was terrible. It was just terrible because some people say a lot. All the pauses I took out, all the like the stuff that they're thinking and there's nothing being said, I would take that out. So you can be a perfectionist or you can be a good enough. It depends on how much time you have, how much effort you want to put into it. So it originally probably took me 20 hours to do the first editing of the podcast. And now it takes about an hour to 2 hours, depending. And that 2 hours, that second hour is all about noise. So if I can get rid of noise, then it'll probably only take me an hour to edit, produce, and publish. So as you practice, you want to practice on short clips versus an hour clip where you have done all this work to do the interview and you have to take out like every 5 seconds, you have to take out these little snippets versus you can practice with, 10-minute clips and see, oh, damn, that's a lot of work. How can I not do that in the future? So that's kind of the example of the homework that I'll be giving to go through that type of work. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
If you have if you have somebody to edit it, like I do, what's good is you can tell the person you're interviewing, like, you can mess up and I'll just have them splice it together. So there's been a few episodes where I've messed up or the person I was interviewing was just super nervous and like had to cut out a lot, but most of the time it isn't that bad. But that's another thing too, if you're dealing with somebody who's very nervous, talking for whatever reason, you can just assure them like, hey, if you mess up, you can just say that over again and it'll be fine.
Yeah. And she'll warn me. And so I don't like to do interviews. I hate doing interviews. So that's Nanea's job and Ikaika's job and other people's job. Is just because I'd rather be on the computer looking at the screen than doing the interview and then listening to the story. I get to listen to the story, so benefit me. Yay. So yeah, she'll warn me beforehand so I can prepare myself with like the type of, I have to have my headphones there, I have to have like certain things available versus, oh, it went great. So I can just like double speed through and be like, okay, yeah, that sounded good. So instead of wasting 45 minutes or half an hour to listen to the whole thing, looking for little pieces that I can take out. Sorry, there was a question, and it says, I want to prevent having to cut out info and content of what the interviewee says and shares. I feel like that might be disrespectful, and I don't want to do that. Yeah. Yep. Any other questions or comments? We're basically done with this class, and then so I have homework. So I guess I can say that, and then we can have more questions if there are any. Okay. So this template, you'll get the PDF. You can make your own depending on, copy paste it. It's yours to use. So here's the homework. The YouTube video. So you'll get these slides and you can watch the YouTube videos. The homework is to listen to a Native Stories podcast and then rate our podcast and provide comments and share on your social media because that would be beneficial to us. Write down something you liked or disliked for discussion. It can be about the questions or the interviewer or the interviewee or the sound, the noise, the clicking, like it could be in anything, or the description. I think it'd be good for discussion-wise for for you guys to do that. And then here's the instruction manual that you can take notes for on the next class. So the next class is recording. So it'd be the equipment stuff. Oops, I forgot. Recording and editing. So you record, I'll show you the recording pieces, software that we use, the equipment and the software we use, and then Ikaika can show you how to do it on Audition. I'll show you how to do it on Audacity. If you have your own software, let me know. You can go, and if you have a Windows computer, you can go download Audacity now. I don't know if there's free ones for Apple computers. So I don't know. I think maybe Audacity has for Apple too. I don't know. But if you have and you can't find it, message me and we'll figure something out. Had thoughts, but that is all I can think of right now. If you have any hopes for this class, I wrote down everybody's, why they're doing podcasting. And so if there's any hopes that we can get to at the very front, let me know. Yeah, that is all. Any questions, comments? Oh, we got 3. What does it say? Mahalo. All right. Audacity team. Yep, there you go. Go download that. Presentation. I'm not sure how to do that. I will figure it out. Either I'll make it into a PDF and send it to everybody, or I'll give everybody access to this one as a viewing. One of those two. That's how I do it. Alrighty, so I guess I will hopefully see you guys in the next class next Thursday, 1 to 3 o'clock. All right.
Oh, wait. Oh. And make sure to fill out our survey. She's going to send you one after this, too.
Oh, no, not till end. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll send now. All right, take care, everybody.
Mahalo.
Mahalo, guys.
Mahalo.
I will.
Iho.
Oh, I gotta stop the